Good Sunday morning. This is Micah Mitchell with Madison County Weather Updates. I'm going to do a quick video for you here and look at what we've got going on with our pattern. As we know, it's been pretty cool the last week or so. It's going to be really cool tonight. The southern part of the county, basically downtown Anderson and south, will probably drop to the lower 40s tonight. Areas to the north of downtown Anderson and to the west, especially low-lying areas, could drop into the mid to upper 30s tonight, and perhaps some might see their first frost of the season. So we'll take a look at some of that data here in just a minute. But here's a look at the 7-day forecast, the way I think I'm going to put it out. Again, we'll be right around 70, maybe lower 70s today, mid 70s tomorrow, upper 70s to around 80 on Tuesday. Then we'll begin about a week-long stretch of 80s to, we may even push into the upper 80s by this next weekend. So some data wants to push us around 90. I don't think we're going to get that hot, but who knows? As a pretty amplified pattern we got going on. We got a deep trough that's moving away. It'll be followed by a high ridge. So, who knows? We'll see how that plays out as we get later into the week. Here's a look at the synoptic weather page from BAM Weather. And this is the NAM 3K. And we can kind of see, Indianapolis, they'll drop down to around 50 or so tonight. Muncie, somewhere the northern parts of Muncie, probably around 40. Downtown Muncie will be much like downtown Anderson, probably drop into the lower 40s. But the areas to the north will be these lighter shades of green up in here are temperatures in the 35 36 degree range. So again, if you've got any sensitive plants, you might want to cover them or bring them in tonight, especially if you're to the north or to the west of downtown Anderson. So we're going to take a quick look into a rare look into weather models, just because I want to show you the variation in what's out there. So this is the National Weather Service forecast. It's pretty similar to mine. I think I'm a little warmer, toward the end of the week, but pretty similar to what the National Weather Service has. Here's their blend of models. And you can see it kind of runs this stretch of 80s out. This is into the middle of next week. I do think we've got a front in there before this, and one model kind of sees that. Of course, the GFS is loading now. So we'll go back to, here was the 6Z run of the GFS. Look how hot it is and how long it runs that heat. I don't think, based on what has happened over the last few weeks in the North Pacific, that this is the case. But I'm just showing you the variation in the models. When you go to the GEFS, which is a blend of all the GFS ensembles, you can see it kind of peaks the heat out around the 14th or 15th, and then it gradually brings it down. I think this is going to drop off faster than what the data thinks. Here's a look at the European, and it brings the peak up here over the weekend. It does at least see this front here, and then it brings us back to the 80s. That's possible because there's been a very up and down pattern in the North Pacific, which I'll show you in a minute. And then here's the EPS, which is a blend of all the European ensembles, 50 of those. And it also, like the GEFS, extends the 80s all the way out past the 21st. So, and I just don't think the 80s are going to hang on that long. But if you're a summer lover, definitely be rooting for the model data. But the model data has done a terrible job. It did a terrible job seeing the cool spells. It did a terrible job seeing the warm spell. And now I think it's doing a terrible job seeing the cool that's coming after the warm. So let's take a look here into the North Pacific. And what we're seeing, well, one way over here is Indiana. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this if you're looking on your phone, but you can see the colder air dipping in. But then back in here, there's this ridge of high pressure. This will move to the east as this trough finally retreats, and that'll bring our heat. You can see there's another low pressure hanging out there off of the west coast. There's some tropical things going on out in the West Pacific too that can affect the pattern. But as we look up in here to the Aleutian Islands, kind of where this cursor is roughly equates to Indiana about 17 to 21 days after now. And you can see this big ridge that moved out. So that's the end of this heat. Here's a quick cold shot that comes in. Then we've got another ridge, and then we've got another trough digging in behind that. Is there's a pretty decent storm system. So I really think that we're going to continue on an up and down pattern, with each warm spell getting less intense. And I just don't think we're going to be seeing, a 2 week run of 80s like what the GEFS is putting down. But, we'll wait and see. I will say that if the 80s do stick around that consistently, there are several fronts in there, and we could be looking at some severe storms. And I still think somewhere around the 20th or 21st, equating with this front back here, and when that equivalent pushes through here around the 20th or 21st, we could be looking at some severe storms anyway. And we've also obviously have dried out considerably. I don't know if you remember back at the beginning of July, I had said that I thought that we might be talking about drought by the third week of July or so. It ended up being the fourth week. I was about a week late, but we have been very dry ever since then. We've had about, well, less than an inch and a half of rain almost county wide since the last week of July. So we're very dry. That dry is going to continue for the foreseeable future. If we go back here to the forecast, maybe some tiny rain chances in there next weekend, but really nothing of any significance for at least the next 7 to 10 days. Then, as that wavy pattern that's showing in the North Pacific begins to work in, then we'll see if we begin to pick up on a second severe season and maybe pick up a little bit more rain. And that's all big crapshoot right now because we've got the tropics in the Atlantic to deal with, and we got some activity that's gone on in the West Pacific that might recurve and affect our pattern as well. So there's some jokers in the deck, but overall, next 7 to 10 days looks like it's going to be dry. And once we hit Tuesday or Wednesday, we're going to have about a 7 or 8 day run of 80 degrees. So if you love summer weather, enjoy this coming week and next weekend because that may be is all we get as far as extended runs of 80s. We'll still see some shots where we have a day or 2 days that shoot up into the 80s, but I think this next 7 to 10 days, 7 or 8 days is probably going to be our last long run of 80 degrees. Speaking of 80, our average high tomorrow drops to 79, and then we will not have an average high of 80 degrees again until next June 8th. So we're definitely on the decline. We're definitely in the part of the year that's going to cool rapidly as far as averages go. So enjoy this last run of summer. If you've enjoyed the fall weather, there's more to come. But summer is going to take one more swing at us. This is Michael Mitchell with Madison County Weather Updates. As always, if you support this page financially, thank you so much. If you don't and you can, please do so. Please help keep the page supported. And the page is over 19,000 followers now. That's crazy that I've got that many followers on this page. But I need more of you to support the page. So if you can, please do so. And again, thank you so much to those of you who do.